Chase, 1969. The rotted legs of the old abandoned fire tower straddled the bog, which created its own tendrils of mist. Except for cawing crows, the hushed forest seemed to hold an unexpected mood as the two boys, Benji Mason and Steve Long, both 10, both blonde, started up the damp staircase on the morning of October 30th, 1969. Fall ain't supposed to be this hot, Steve called back to Benji. Yeah, and everything's quiet except the crows. Glancing down between the steps, Steve said, Whoa, what's that? Where? See there, blue clothes like somebody's laying in the mud. Benji called out, Hey you, what you doing? I see a face, but it ain't moving. Arms pumping, they ran back to the ground and pushed their way to the other side of the tower's base, greenish mud clinging to their boots. There lay a man flat on his back, his left leg turned grotesquely forward from the knee, his eyes and mouth open wide. Jesus Christ, Benji said. My God, it's Chase Andrews. We better get the sheriff. But we ain't supposed to be out here. That don't matter now, and them crows will be snooping around any time now. They swung their heads toward the cawing as Steve said, Maybe one of us ought to stay, keep them birds off him. You're crazy if you think I'm going to stick around here by myself. And I'm betting an engine head you won't either. You won't either, probably would say. With that, they grabbed their bikes, pedaled hard down the syrupy sand track back to Maine, through town, and ran inside the low-slung building where Sheriff Ed Jackson sat at his desk in an office lit with single light bulbs dangling on cords. Hefty and of medium height, he had reddish hair, his face and arms splotched with pale freckles, and sat thumbing through a sports field. Without knocking, the boys rushed through the open door. Sheriff? Hey, Steve, Benji, you boys been to a fire? We seen Chase Andrews flat out in the swamp under the fire tower. He looks dead, ain't moving one bit. Ever since Barkley Cove had been settled in 1751, no lawman extended his jurisdiction beyond the sawgrass. In the 1940s and 50s, a few sheriffs set hounds on some mainland convicts who'd escaped into the marsh, and the office still kept dogs just in case. But Jackson mostly ignored crimes committed in the swamp. Why interrupt rats killing rats? But this was Chase. This was Chase. Like, it was different. The sheriff stood and took his hat from the rack. Show me. Limbs of oak and wild holly screeched against the patrol truck. That's super red. As the sheriff maneuvered down the sandy track with Dr. Vern Murphy, lean and fit with graying hair, the town's only physician, sitting beside him. Each man swayed to the tune of the deep ruts, Vern's head almost banging against the window. Old friends about the same age, they fished together some, and were often thrown onto the same case, both silent now at the prospect of confirming whose body lay in the bog. Steve and Benji sat in the truck bed with their bikes until the truck stopped. He's over there, Mr. Jackson, behind them bushes. Ed stepped from the truck. You boys wait here. Then he and Dr. Murphy waded the mud to where Chase lay. The crows had flown off when the truck came, but other birds and insects whirred above. Insolent life thrumming on. It's Chase, all right. Sam and Patty Love won't survive this. The Andrewses had ordered every spark plug, balanced every account, strung every price tag at the Western Auto for their only child, Chase. Squatting next to the body, listening for a heartbeat with his stethoscope, Vern declared him dead. How long you reckon? Ed asked. I'd say at least 10 hours. The coroner'll know for sure. He must have climbed up last night then, fell from the top. Vern examined Chase briefly without moving him, then stood next to Ed. Both men stared at Chase's eyes, still looking skyward from his bloated face, then glanced at his gaping mouth. How many times I've told folks in this town something like this was bound to happen, the sheriff said. They had known Chase since he was born, had watched his life ease from charming child to cute teen, star quarterback and town hotshot to working for his parents. Finally, handsome man wedding the prettiest girl. Now he sprawled alone, less dignified than the slough. Death's crude pluck, as always, stealing a show. Death's crude pluck, as always, stealing the show. Ed broke the silence. Thing is, I can't figure out why the others didn't run for help. They always come up here in a pack, or at least a couple of them, to make out. The sheriff and doctor exchanged brief but knowing nods that even though he was married, Chase might bring other women to the tower. Let's step back out here. Get a good look at things, Ed said, as he lifted his feet, stepping higher than necessary. You boys stay where you are. Don't go making any more tracks. Pointing to some footprints that led from the staircase across the bog to within 8 feet of Chase, Ed asked them, Those your prints from this morning? Yes, sir, that's as far as we went, Benji said. Soon as we seen it was Chase, we backed up. You can see there where we backed up. Okay, Ed turned. Vern, something's not right. There's no footprints near the body. If he was with his friends or whoever, once he fell, they would have run down here and stepped all around him, knelt next to him to see if he was alive. Look how deep our tracks are in the mud. But there are no other fresh tracks. None going toward the stairs or away from the stairs. None around the body. Maybe he was by himself then. That would explain everything. Well, I'll tell you one thing that doesn't explain. Where are his footprints? How did Chase Andrews walk down the path, cross this muck to the stairs so he could climb to the top, and not leave any footprints himself? Oh, should I keep going? Chapter 4. It's been 6 minutes. Okay, do it again. 10 minutes long. I'm going to go 10 minutes. Okay, Chapter 4. School, 1952. A few days after her birthday, out alone barefooting in the mud, Kia bent over, watching a tadpole getting its frog legs. Suddenly she stood. A car churned through deep sand near the end of their lane. No one ever drove here. Then the murmur of people talking, a man and a woman drifting through the trees. Kia ran fast to the brush, where she could see who was coming, but still have ways to escape. Like Jody taught her. A tall woman emerged from the car, unsteadily maneuvering in high heels just like Ma had done, alone along the sandy lane. They must be orphanage people come to get her. I can outrun her for sure. She'd fall nose first in them shoes. Kia stayed put and watched the woman step to the porch's screen door. Yoo-hoo! Anybody home? Truant officer here. I've come to take Catherine Clark to school. Now this was something. Kia sat mute. She was pretty sure she was supposed to go to school at 6. Here they were, a year late. She had no notion how to talk to kids, certainly not to a teacher, but she wanted to learn to read and what came after 29. Catherine, dear, if you can hear me, please come out. It's the law, hon. You gotta go to school. But besides that, you'll like it, dear. You get a hot lunch every day for free. I think today they're having chicken pie with crust. I can't do that for long. Okay, that was something else. Kia was very hungry. For breakfast, she'd boiled some grits and soda crackers stirred in because she didn't have any salt. One thing she already knew about life is you can't eat grits without salt. She'd eaten chicken pie only a few times in her life, but she could still see that golden crust, crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside. She could feel that full gravy taste like it was round. It was her stomach acting on its own that made Kia stand up among the palmetto fronds. Hello, dear, I'm Miss Culpepper. You're all grown up and ready to go to school, aren't you? Yes'm, Kia said, head low. It's okay, you can go barefoot. Other children do. Because you're a little girl, you have to wear a skirt. Do you have a dress or a skirt, hun? Yes'm. Okay, then, let's go. Get you all dressed up. Miss Culpepper followed Kia through the porch door. Having to step over a row of bird nests Kia had lined up along the boards. In the bedroom, Kia put on the only dress that fit, a plaid jumper with one shoulder strap held up with a safety pin. That's fine, dear. You look just fine. Miss Culpepper held out her hand. Kia stared at it. She didn't touch another person in weeks. She hadn't touched another person in weeks. Hadn't touched a stranger her whole life. But she put her small hand in Mrs. Culpepper's and was led down the path to the Ford Crestliner, driven by a silent man wearing a gray fedora. Sitting in the back seat, Kia didn't smile and didn't feel like a chick tucked under its mother's wing. Barclay Cove had one school for whites, 1st grade through 12. Went to a brick 2-story at the opposite of Main, from the sheriff's office. The black kids had their own school, a 1-story cement block structure, out near Colored Town. Okay, I'm reaching 10 minutes, so I think I'm going to stop here because it takes forever to upload.